First off, I want to say that I love the Green Festivals, Alisa. Green Festivals is where I see all the people I love most in one place twice a year. So I'm thrilled to have you with me on the show since you're one of the people who makes Green Festivals happen. So I'd love to find out more about who you are, what you do, and what exciting projects you're currently working on.
Well, thank you, Lorna. It's so great to know that you're a fan because I so admire the work you're doing. In fact, in many ways, we're allies in this work together, the whole idea of how do we grow a green economy. And that's my passion and my work. I have the privilege of serving as the executive director of Green America, and Green America's mission is to grow the green economy. We have 3 program areas. The first is what we call Green Your Life, which is consumer-facing, and we help families learn what they can do to go deeper into greening their lives. And one of the things I really want to start out with here is that when we say green at Green America, what we mean is both social and economic justice along with community and environmental health, if you will, people and the planet. That's what we need for a more just and sustainable future for us all. So our first program area is Green Your Life, where we help families green their lives. Our second program area is Green Your Business, where guess what? We help businesses green their business. Everything from businesses that are just starting to figure out how to spell the word green and what sustainability is, all the way to the leaders. We like to recognize and honor the leaders in green, the companies that are really out there showing the way for everybody. But we help every business go deeper into what it is to run a business in a just and sustainable way. And then our third program is what we call Green the World, and it's what we call our economic advocacy work, where we focus on specific issue areas where economic solutions to social and environmental problems prevail. So, for example, climate change, fair trading solutions, community investing, creating sustainable local communities. These are all ways where we can all collaborate together in our economic roles as families, as consumers, as investors, as business leaders to create a greener economy. As part of that work, we have created the Green Festival along with our allies, Global Exchange. We co-produce the Green Festivals with our friends at Global Exchange. Global Exchange is an international human rights organization, and together we represent the green economy, people and the planet, and the idea of celebrating with solutions in your communities, which is what happens at a Green Festival. So I'm so glad that you and your friends get together and enjoy that because we bring people together. The Green Festivals have sort of 3 different things going on. The first is wonderful ways to learn more. Half the people who come are already on their own journey to sustainability, and half are just getting started. And there's great speakers from all over the country at every Green Festival, along with hands-on how-to workshops. We then have our exhibitor track where innovative green companies from the local area come and show their products and services so that people can connect with and find the products and services they need from the green economy. And then the third thing we do, of course, it's a festival. So we have arts and culture and music and an organic food court. One of everyone's favorites, the Organic Beer and Wine Garden, where people meet up and see their friends and plot and plan more ways to go green. So it's what we call a 2-day party with a purpose. We set the intention that everyone who comes can find at least one new idea and some inspiration to either start or deepen their journey to sustainability.
So I love how in your definition of green, there's a social justice component. Would you say that green businesses are by default also social enterprises?
Absolutely, green businesses are social enterprises, and part of our joyful work at Green America is to encourage businesses to be as holistic as possible as they define green and sustainability. Some green businesses become these wonderful social entrepreneurs because they have a passion in a specific area. Perhaps it's fair trade, and so it's very specifically social justice. Or perhaps it's to serve an underserved community, again, very specifically social justice. So folks who come from a social and economic justice, businesses that enter from the social and economic justice perspective, we encourage them to broaden and also consider environmental impact. Likewise, many companies start with an environmental impact mission, and we encourage them to look at the social and economic justice side. Because if we're going to have a just and sustainable world, one that works for all, it needs to be both people and the planet. And that's the perspective we take. We also find that one leads to the other, that once you start the inquiry about how do I become more environmentally sustainable, it doesn't take very long before you are looking at how do I address social justice issues. If I care about the planet, then I also have to care about the people who are going to be working for me in my supply chain. So it's actually a very natural step that we find businesses very interested in taking. And we celebrate every step that a business takes down this road.
So you guys are really prolific and you're doing so many great things, and I love your description of green festivals as a party with a purpose. Now, in my research in, all the different program areas and, related entities to Green America, I have to admit I'm a bit confused. So if you could help the audience understand what the difference is between Co-op America, the Green Business Network, the National Green Pages, that will help us kind of orient where we need to go when we are looking at how we can affiliate ourselves with your organization. So can you help us understand succinctly what each organization does and their relationship to each other and where one should go for one's particular interest?
Lorna, you've done great research, and what a wonderful question. So Co-op America and Green America is the same entity. Our name used to be Co-op America and is now Green America. We changed our name about 2 years ago. And so when you come to our website, greenamerica.org, that's what you'll find is Green America. When you come to greenamerica.org, you're going to have access to all of our information that primarily faces your journey to sustainability as an individual and as your family. So that website, greenamerica.org, has the information that you'll need to deepen your family's journey to sustainability. We have there for you information on how basically what we do is we guide families along a 4-step process. First, to think about how do you meet your needs without consumption, because part of a sustainable world is to meet your needs in an appropriate way. So, for example, I had a girlfriend once who called me up and she said, "Oh, Alisa, I'm so stressed out. I had a terrible week at work last week, and I was so stressed out that over the weekend I went to the mall and I bought 3 new dresses, but I can't really afford 3 new dresses, and now they're on my credit card. So I guess you could say I have a 3-dress stress." And so I said to her,
when shopping therapy goes wrong.
Right. So I said to her, "Hey, let's make a deal. The next time you get stressed out at work, give me a call. We'll meet at the farmer's market. We'll sit down and get a cup of tea. We'll put up our feet and people watch and laugh and talk about our week and just totally relax." And she said, "Oh, that's a much better way to deal with stress than to buy dresses." And so that's what I mean. The first step is to meet your needs in your non-material needs in non-material ways, and to not be subject to Madison Avenue that says, "Hey, you want to meet a man or a woman? Well, go out and buy a fancy car, No, there's much better ways to meet people. So the first step is really looking at the ways you meet your needs and to reduce consumption when you can in a joyful way, and of course to save lots of money at doing that. Second step is when you decide to buy from green companies locally based, and we then have a whole set of resources to help you find really great green businesses. We have a business certification program that's considered one of the toughest in the country, so if you really want to be assured that you are buying from a green company, we have greenpages.org that can help you find the best green companies from all over the country. And then we'll also help connect you as an individual to our economic action campaigns so that we can green the world together. Everything from how do we stop coal to how do we advance fair trade and renewable energy. Because when we work on economic advocacy issues, when we work on system change, our theory of change is we have to both stop the damage and say no to the things that are bad, like sweatshops and coal-fired power plants, and we want to say yes to the things that are creating a green economy, a restorative economy. So we want to say yes to fair trade chocolate and fair trade coffee and renewable energy. So we help guide you and invite you to join our campaigns to help us do those things. So for example, right now we're working very hard to stop some of the worst coal-fired power plants in the country, and you can help us do that. We've already had some great successes. There's a huge coalition working on this, and the coalition has stopped 150 out of 170 new proposed plants. And now we're going after the plants, the most polluting leading carbon spewing plants, and we're making some great inroads. So, you're joining our campaigns really helps. Likewise, one of the campaigns we're working on right now is that in chocolate, in conventional chocolate, there's a huge problem with forced labor, particularly forced child labor in the supply chain. And one of the worst offenders, one of the ones who's least attentive to it, is the Hershey Company. And so right now we have a big campaign to persuade Hershey to change their practices and pay attention and fix the problems in their supply chain and to shift to fair trade chocolate. That campaign has also had great success. We're causing so much trouble that another major company already came to us and said, okay, we're going to switch to fair trade so you don't do to us what you're doing to Hershey's. And we've also had some other great results, such as Hershey's agreeing to work with Honest Tea to provide technology so Honest Tea can provide a fair trade chocolate drink. Next step now is Hershey has to do it themselves. But some great stuff is happening, and it happens when people who care about social and environmental responsibility when it comes to the economy, that is growing a green economy, join together and put pressure on actors that need to clean up their act.
So if you're an environmental activist type and you want to find a campaign, an important campaign to get behind, then all they have to do is head over to greenamerica.org.
That's right. We'll help you everything from how to reduce your shopping. One of our most popular things on our website is 10 things you never need to buy again. We'll help you when you want to shift your purchasing to more socially and environmentally responsible companies. We'll help you with best economic action campaigns to join. And we'll also help you do social and environmental investing. So all of those things that deal with shifting to a greener economy, you can find at greenamerica.org.
Excellent. Excellent.
So now if you're a business and you want to take your next steps in your journey to sustainability, then you want to come to we have a Green Business Network that works with businesses to deepen their sustainability commitments. So if you're a business or if you're in a workplace, and almost all of us work, so you can get involved in our Green Business Program. That's called the Green Business Network. And
it's at greenbusiness.org?
It's greenbusinessnetwork.org.
That's right, greenbusinessnetwork.org.
Network.org. And so as a business, you can come to our website to learn how to deepen your commitment to sustainability. We have some amazing tools. We're launching this summer something called Green Gain, which is an assessment and project management tool designed for small and mid-sized businesses to help walk them through the steps of becoming more sustainable. So, for example, let's say you're a company that bakes chocolate chip cookies. You can say, this is who I am, this is the business I'm doing, these are the steps I've already taken, and then it'll give you an assessment. It'll say, this is how you're doing compared to other companies like you, and it'll say, if you want to do more, here's what you can do. Oh, you said you made chocolate chip cookies. Well, be interested in sourcing your chocolate chips from fair trade chocolate. Well, if you are, here's a project management tool so that you can take these initiatives, and we'll help you along the way to going fair trade with your chocolate. Oh, you have ovens. Would you like to know how to increase your energy efficiency in your bakery operations? Well, here, take this project management tool, take this initiative, and we can walk you through what you need to do for that. So we help businesses really think about how they can take their next steps wherever they are, from just having started to having done it for years. We'll help you take your next steps. And then when you feel like you're ready, that you want to proudly say, yes, you know what? I'm on the path. I'm greening my business. You can apply to become a Green Business Network approved member, which you would go through our certification process, which is a really great process because it really helps you understand your next steps and how great you're doing. And you go through the certification process and can become either a bronze, silver, or gold, depending on where you are in your journey. You can get the certification. We're proud because our certification is considered a really tough standard so that consumers know that you're really on the path, and you can proudly wear the Green America seal of approval.
So you have about 200 plus green business criteria that you rate the green business applicants on?
Oh, absolutely. It's actually probably more like 700 plus.
Whoa, that's daunting. I'm scared.
But we make it very easy. It's an online program that takes you through the steps. If, for example, you are a service business and you don't have a fleet of trucks, well, then you don't have to do the fleet of trucks portion.
Oh, good.
So it makes it really easy for every business address the criteria that are most important, most core to their business. It's a seal of approval that businesses wear very proudly. And you'll see from our website, other businesses talk about what it was like to go through the process and about how much they learned and how much it not only improved the sustainability aspects of their business, but helped them become better businesses, more efficient, more profitable, and more able to reach their marketplaces, which, of course, when you want to grow the economy, that's grow the green economy. That's what we want to do. So, and then for those businesses who do get our seal of approval, we offer a whole set of benefits to help them reach green consumers. You can be at the green festivals. You can be in our green pages. Green Pages Online is an amazing resource for both consumers and businesses to find the products and services they need from the green community.
So the National Green Pages is your directory of approved Green Business America certified companies. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's the National Green Pages is the honor roll, and then other businesses that are on the path can be in Green Pages Online as well. When you come to the website, you can see which businesses have earned the top gold standard seal of approval and who are silver and who are bronze and who are on the path. And you can click right through to their sustainability profile. So it's very cool, and it's a great resource for both businesses and consumers when they want to make choices about purchasing. And we always encourage people to go local and green whenever they can.
So there's a number of different green certification programs springing up, and I'm curious to know what differentiates the Green America approved seal or certification versus some of the other green certification programs, and what benefits do you offer that are ahead of or unique to compared to some of the other programs?
Well, I'm really proud of the work that my team does in our Green Business Certification Program because I think it offers two things that are really unique from the different great work that's out there. The first is that it is a holistic vision of sustainability. So as we talked about before, our definition of green is both social and economic as well as community and environmental health, so that it is the most holistic certification program out there. And when consumers are looking for companies that are really the innovators and the leaders, they turn to our certification, our seal of approval. So I think that's the first and most important one. The second really important thing about earning our seal of approval is that it then gives you access to all of these great markets. Many certification programs, you earn the certification and then it's out there to get your name out there associated with that certification, while we provide many different marketing channels. We're really proud of the businesses that earn our certification, and we want to proudly tell the whole world about them. So we help get your name out there, and I think that's very important. And then all of our business members, no matter where they are on the journey to sustainability, we also offer them some wonderful business services that can really be helpful to their business. Everything from carbon offsets to socially responsible 401k plans to a whole range of discounted business services, including shipping and phone services and so on and so forth. So that when you join our network, even if you're first getting started, even if you haven't yet earned the certification, you are welcomed into a community of businesses that are all on this journey. The networking aspect is amazing because they'll give you, all the other members will give you lots of hints and tips about, where do you find, for example, let's say you're running a coffee shop and you want compostable spoons and forks. Well, where do you find them? They'll help you with your sourcing issues. They'll help you find great employees. They'll help you find great board members. So it's a great network. It's a great set of business services that'll really help you get off the ground fast with your business. And then finally, for those who go through and get the business certification, it's a great marketing channel.
Wow, that sounds like a lot. I mean, I'm so inspired. I want to go out and get my certification as soon as possible for my internet-based business.
Oh, well, that's so exciting, and we just really welcome all of the businesses. I don't want any business to feel daunted. There's a place for you in the Business Network. We'll help you get started on your journey to sustainability, and we'll give you the tools and support you need to make those steps, because it's really important to us. Our passion is growing the green economy, and every business out there, every green business leader out there started somewhere. They had to take that first step. So we want to honor and recognize the green business leaders who are out there. So if you're a green business leader, please join the network and get your certification so we can brag about you. And if you're just getting started, please come in, be welcomed. We can help you get down that path.
So the other day I was speaking with Joel Mechauer, who I also interviewed for the Entrepreneurs for a Change podcast, and he actually recently wrote a blog post, "Green marketing is over. Let's move on." And, in his blog post he stated that no environmentally preferable car, carpet cleaner, cosmetic, or coffee has effectively captured more than 2% of its respective market. He also states that most of what we buy is becoming more green in spite of our shopping habits. So do you think that more and more people are choosing to buy green, or is this still very much a niche?
Well, where we are is in the tipping point. I think you probably know, and many of your people in your audience probably know the idea of a tipping point, that it's basically a model of the diffusion of ideas. And many people know Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. And in Malcolm Gladwell's book, he walks through the different stages of bringing new ideas and new innovations to the public. And the first stage is what's called the thought leader stage and the innovator stage. And that's the stage where we're at. And we think it's very exciting. We've hit the first tipping point where the thought leaders and the innovators have, in every segment of the economy, they have created a green business segment. Here at Green America, we have a map of the economy and kind of a wheel, if you can imagine it. So we break the economy up into 12 different sectors, food and agriculture, for example, and energy and investing, finance and investing, and so on and so forth around the entire economy. And the great news is that in every sector of the economy, there's a green sector and is healthier than the conventional part of the sector. So, for example, take food and agriculture. Organic food is growing faster than conventional food. So if you're in the organic food segment of the food industry, your segment is growing even all through the recession at 20% or better, whereas the conventional food industry is growing at 1% at best. And so the good news is it's healthy and it's growing. In the green building sector, right now with the terrible recession that we have all over the country, the building sector was hurt very badly. Green building is about the only bright spot in the building sector, but because it's the green buildings that are growing, people who are building or renovating are going green. So in every sector of the economy, there is a green sector that's healthy, vibrant, and growing, because we do want green growth. We don't want growth of pollution. We don't want growth of sweatshops, but we do want green business growth. That's where we want our future to be. That's where we want our jobs to be. So that's the good news. And Joel is right that in every one of those sectors, we've hit the first tipping point. The first tipping point is 2 to 5%. That's when the thought leaders and the innovators have gotten so much traction that they're finally visible. And that's something to celebrate. And so I would agree with Joel. That's where we are in most of those segments. Most of those segments are somewhere between 2 to 5%. Again, let's look at organic food. Organic food is somewhere around 2 to 3% of the food industry. Now, I don't take that as discouraging. I take that as really encouraging that the leaders and innovators in organic food have now gotten so much traction that they've hit the first tipping point. The next tipping point is to go very rapidly from 2 to 5% to 10 to 12%. And that's when the early adopters come in. By the time you hit the first tipping point, you see a lot of talk. People, it's now visible. The media is covering it. It's a point of celebration. But there's more talk than do because it's still only 2 to 5%. So that's, I'm sure, what Joel is focusing on. But then once you hit that first tipping point, that's when things start to take off. Once people do start talking about it and they do start to see it everywhere, that's when they realize, I would rather have a job in a green business than in a conventional business. They go, I'd rather start a green business than a conventional business. And that's what I'm looking to see is in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to very rapidly go to 10 or 15%. In fact, Green America's goal is that we start shifting the green economy so fast that by 2020, it's 20% of the economy. And that will be full bore into that next early adopter and early majority tipping point, which is very exciting because guess what? Once you hit 20%, it takes even faster to go from 20% to 50%. So that's what we're after. And so I'm making the same observations that Joel is, so we agree there. I'm just seeing it in a different light, which is, okay, we've hit the first tipping point. Now our job is to go to scale and get to that next tipping point. And I see every indication that's exactly what we're doing.
What do you think it will take for us to get to a place where the mainstream economy is predominantly green, where every company strives to reduce its environmental footprint in some significant way? Do you think this is even possible in the next 25 years?
I absolutely do. And what I want to say is it's very exciting because we are heading in that direction very, very strongly. Let me take energy as an example. Let me step back and take cell phones as an example. So cell phones have been under development in this country since 1970. We're some of the earliest when they developed the cell technology and they created all the cell space, all the bandwidth for cell phones. But, if we were having this talk and we could see your entire audience and ask them, how many people here had a cell phone 10 years ago? Very few people would raise their hands. And in fact, cell phones about 10 years ago were about at that same tipping point, 2 to 5%. You ask people today how many people here have a cell phone. Well, practically 100% of Americans and hugely around the world have cell phones. That's an example of how once they hit that first tipping point, which took them 30 years to get to, they very rapidly went from 5% to 10% and then from 10% to 90%. So what I'm seeing is that that's going to happen in many, many areas of the green economy. Let me now take energy, renewable energy, and in particular solar energy. One of Green America's projects inside of our climate action work is to really encourage the acceleration of solar and other renewables along with energy efficiency. And in 2000, we were looking at solar because it is impossible to meet our 2050 climate change goals of reducing carbon by at least 90% without solar contributing at least 50% of all energy. And at that time, in the year 2000, the entire global installations of solar had less output than a typical nuclear power plant. And if you're sitting in the year 2000 and going, how on earth is solar going to provide 50% of our energy by 2050? And guess what? About 20%. That 20% by 2020 is very important because if we're at 20% by 2020, we are on our way to 80 to 90% by 2050. And so our Solar Catalyst project sat down to map out what the growth rate of solar would have to be and what would have to happen in order for us to meet that goal of being at 20% solar by 2020 and 50% solar globally, worldwide, by 2050. And right now, the growth of solar is so amazing, even through the recession and all of the problems we could talk about. Right now, solar is ahead of that growth curve. Right now, if we keep up what we're doing with solar, we could actually have 50% of the world's energy coming from solar by between 2040 and 2050. And people go, wow, that's amazing. How could that happen? And I again ask them to think about cell phones. Solar manufacturing is very much like cell phones. It takes a long time between you can get to 5 or 10%. But once you hit that first tipping point, that 5%, what happens is all that manufacturing that created 5% continues to chug along, and it can do the next 5% really, and then they bring on new manufacturing, and by the time you get to 10%, you can very easily get to 20%. So it moves very, very rapidly. We're seeing that with green building. We're seeing that with food and local food. With local food, the number of farmers markets has quadrupled in the last 2 years. The number of CSAs and other ways to deliver local food has quintupled in the last 5 years. Almost every community has a local food initiative that's helping to get locally grown organic food into what we call food deserts, where low-income and underserved communities are finally getting access to healthy food. For the first time in 50 years, the number of small family farms has actually increased, stopping the 50-year decline in the number of small family farms. So we're hitting that first tipping point, and we're going to start to see all of this happen very rapidly. And so it is a great time to either join a green business or to start a green business, because we are going to be the mainstream. So learning those skills, being the leadership, being the innovators is going to be a fantastic place to be for this green ride coming up.
That is so inspiring. I'm so glad to hear those statistics, because sometimes it can seem really daunting when you hear all the other dire news on how we are still, kind of trashing our planet. So it's good to see that there is a lot of traction happening in the green economy.
Absolutely. And it's a great story of hope that, again, because we're only at that 2 to 5% place, people aren't quite seeing it yet. But it is happening, and it is happening rapidly. We track these things, and we are so excited. Now, of course, it's not going to just automatically happen. It requires each one of us to take the steps in our personal lives to choose socially and environmentally responsible products, to go through that little thing that I talked about before. Don't buy stuff you don't need. When you do buy stuff, make it green and socially responsible. When you do your investing, from all that money you saved in step one, invest green. As a business, this green economy isn't going to happen unless, if you're thinking of starting a business, you make it a green one. If you're looking for a new job, give the greenest companies the first shot at your great talents. If you're in a company, encourage them to think about how are they going to go green so that they don't miss this wave and this direction. So it won't happen automatically. If each one of us take these steps in our homes and in our workplaces, we can keep those growth curves rapidly moving from the first tipping point that we've hit, where the innovators and thought leaders establish the green segments in each part of the economy. We can rapidly move now to the early adopters and the majority, the mainstream, with these very great green products, services, and businesses.
What does it take to launch and grow a national celebration of the green economy like green festivals? How can other people in other countries replicate your success, or do you plan to take over the world?
Well, we want people everywhere. Green festivals and Green America, we don't want to be a central location of anything. We just want to give the ideas, we want to give the inspiration, and we want to say, hey, from here forward, it's all about each of us, no matter where we are, no matter where we live, no matter where we work, is taking these ideas into our homes and workplaces and into our communities and going with it. So we want to encourage other people to do festivals in their communities here and abroad. We actually are talking with folks in both China and Russia about how they can build green festivals in their countries. And you know what it takes? It takes people getting together and having the passion to do it. In each city where a green festival goes, we co-create the green festival to serve that local area. We have a host committee that gets together, and we figure out together with them who are the best speakers, which businesses are doing the great stuff, who are the nonprofits that are coming together to create solutions in this community. Because a locally rooted green economy where people are collaborating in all different kinds of ways, that then takes things from that innovative stage when not everybody sees what's going on to the stage when you start going up that hockey stick and everybody can get involved. So we really hope that people take inspiration from the work that we do and say, how can I do it in my home? How can I do it in my business? How can I do it in my community? And we're, as a nonprofit, we're here to help you do that. So come on over to our website is greenamerica.org or greenbusinessnetwork.org or greenfestivals.org. And with whatever your gifts and passions are, find a great way to jump in.
So, Alisa, I was checking out your website, and you have a whole section on how to retire with $1 million in a better world. And that sounds like a really compelling goal to have. I know that many change makers often feel a conflict between doing good and attracting wealth. And a lot of people I know who are change makers also have an aversion to money. I see money as energy that can be applied to good use. And I love the idea of being able to retire with $1 million while living in a better world. So would love for you to share with us some of your insights on the steps that we can take to make sure that our financial house is in order and so that we can achieve this goal.
Lorna, those are such great questions. And I want to start with your good insight about money being energy flow. That is really important to understand. Money helps us make visible what we want to see in the world. And like any tool, it can be the root of all evil, or it can be a wonderful way to make happen in the world things that are exactly what our world needs now. So a good place to start is with your relationship with money, to really figure out what your relationship with money is and how you can get into a balanced relationship with it so that it is not driving any evil and you're the one making the decisions and being intentional about its direction. Another way to say that is, if you think of all of the things that you're going to purchase over your lifetime. Those of us who have the great good fortune of having a job that can earn $20,000 or more a year will spend $1 million in our lifetime. So the question becomes, how can you already act like a millionaire and make sure that when you're spending that money, it's going to do good in the world instead of harm? It is a fact that every time a dollar leaves your hand and it goes to work in the world, the question always is it going into the world to do harm, even unintentionally? I am certain that no one has the intention of spending their hard-earned money and having it go do harm. But unfortunately, we have a system that is still not yet a green economy, and so you have to be thoughtful about where that money goes. So, the idea is when you do make purchases from the green economy as much as you can, and that can help steer that flow of money. So where we start in this idea of how do you retire with $1 million in a better world, the first place we start is in how you use that flow of money, of course. And we have lots of great resources on our website. We have a wonderful financial planning handbook that you can come onto our website and download and, work through worksheets. But it's really a very basic, simple concept that you want to be in control of your money flow. And one way to do that, of course, is to have more money coming in than flowing out. Wanting to save a lot of money and reduce your expenditure rate is a great way also automatically to conserve resources. So many people have really taken up this challenge of how do I really reduce the amount of things that I'm spending money, because by doing that, you're going to be part of the green economy. And of course, there's lots and lots of ways to do that. Let me tell you a story about one group of people, actually from the Bay Area, that did something called the Compact. And this was a bunch of people in their 20s and 30s, most of whom were either teachers or worked at nonprofits. So these were not people who had, tons of resources. And they made a compact to not buy anything new for an entire year. And in so doing, they learned lots and lots of lessons. After the year, when we interviewed them, we said, well, what was your biggest learning? And their biggest learning was how joyful it was to really focus on the things that they wanted to do instead of spending money. They said they spent more time with their families. They had much more fun, everything from simple picnics to getting together to play games. They said that their fun quotient that year skyrocketed compared to all previous years. And many of them decided to continue the compact in many ways simply because of how much fun they had. Secondly, they did indeed save lots and lots of money. One young woman saved enough money that she was able to go to grad school the following year simply by this compact of not buying anything new. Thirdly, they found that they built community in so many ways. Clearly, they all helped each other, and that create a community amongst them. But in being creative about not having to buy new things, they also create community in lots of other ways. For example, one woman gave the example that her TV died at some point, and obviously she couldn't go out and buy a new TV. So she put the word out in her networks, hey, does anybody have a TV that I can use? And she got back a response from several people, and one of them said, oh my gosh, I've got a TV sitting here in the back room doing nothing, and it makes me feel guilty. It would be my pleasure to give you this TV. And there were just tons of stories like that. Another great example was someone who had to go to a swanky fundraiser, and she didn't have a swanky cocktail dress to go to the swanky fundraiser. So again, she put out a word to her network. She said, I need something really glitzy for this fundraiser tonight. Help me out here. Within minutes, she had offers. She said her size. She said what color. In minutes, she had, I think she told me, 6 different offers of dresses. Her friends brought the dresses over. They had a blast trying them all on and deciding which one to wear. And she went to this fancy fundraiser in a beautiful dress, didn't cost her a penny, and she had a blast with her friends getting ready for it. So community was created in so many ways. Now, not everybody is going to jump into creating a compact and saying, oh, I'm not going to buy anything new this year. But if you think of the lessons from that, you're going to create so much savings in your life, no matter where you're starting from, whether, you've got a good job and a good situation or whether you're in financial struggle, really thinking about, oh, I'm going to make a commitment to myself and my family and my people and the planet to not buy anything new. So that, and you can work backwards from there. People do all kinds of fun things, again, around the community, how to do this. They do clothing swaps. They do book swaps. There are people who are doing more and more backyard gardening and creating informal food swaps where, maybe I had a bumper crop of tomatoes and you had a bumper crop of cucumbers, and we get together once a week and we swap out. And there's just more and more going on where people are saying, hey, this is how we can have a great life of plenty and not spend so much money. So that's one way to think about it, how to do that.
Okay, so it sounds like one of the first steps you got to make is, get clear with your relationship with money. Not see it as a evil kind of thing, but, just kind of getting into a healthy relationship, seeing it more as an energetic flow as opposed to something that's going to actually taint your person through the exchange of money. And then secondly, it sounds like, once you get clear with your relationship with money and establish a healthy relationship with it, then reduce unnecessary expenditures. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And let me tell you one other thing that I recommend, particularly to young people who might be listening. Something that my husband and I stumbled on when we first got together all those many years ago is we made a compact with each other that we would always support a level of living that we could live on with one salary, and we would save the other one. And
that's brilliant.
This has been amazing. We've been now married for 21 years. We just celebrated our 21st anniversary. And it has been an amazing gift to us because there have been times when one or the other of us went back to school and we could totally do it. There were times when one of us was changing jobs or one of us wanted to start a company. And we always had the ability to do that. And we never felt deprived because no matter how much money, one of us would be making. And, I've worked all these years in Green America in the nonprofit sector. There are people who can live at that level of financial resource and feel that there's plenty by doing some of the things we just talked about. And we sort of stumbled upon this idea, but let me tell you, 21 years later, how much of a blessing it has been. Anyone listening who is in that position of being able to sort of say, hey, I have a partner or I have a committed relationship. We're going to do this together because that's just going to reap so many benefits over the years. Just a little hint or tip from my personal world about what a blessing that has been.
So you save a whole bunch of money by, making a compact to consume less, or you have the support of your partner and you figure out ways to save more. And then what? What do you do with that extra money? Do you then start to explore different avenues of socially responsible investing? And I'm really kind of curious, too, to understand more about what that term means. What is socially responsible investing and how do you do it?
Well, socially responsible investing at the core is using your financial assets to create a better world in the same way as we talked about a few minutes ago when you make your purchasing decisions. When you decide to buy things, you want to be supporting companies that are socially and environmentally responsible and aligned with your values for the way they do business. Well, it's the same way with socially responsible investing. You want to invest in a way that your values are being made real in your investing. Because, actually what investing does is it creates the products and services of the future. So you want those things that you're investing in to be creating a better future so that when you retire, when you've done all these great things and you have managed your money well and you've invested well, you can retire with resources, and not only personal resources, but you're retiring in a better, more joyful world. So that's the essence of socially responsible investing. Then the question is, well, how do you do that? Well, there's lots of different ways to do socially responsible investing. And one way that's easy to get started in is that there's a branch of socially responsible investing that I call community investing. Some people call high impact investing. And that's even before you're ready to think about investing as in stocks or bonds or anything. If you are at the point of being able to have a bank account, a savings account, a checking account, you can choose to invest in community investing banks and credit unions, community development banks and credit unions. There are wonderful community development banks and credit unions all over the country whose mission is to serve underserved communities, to build affordable housing, to create jobs, and to support the development of small socially and environmentally responsible businesses. When you bank, you're literally giving your money to a bank and they turn around and they do stuff with your money. The question is, are they going to help communities, or are they going to, build luxury condominiums in Everglades, or are they going to help start a small business in solar or energy efficient agency, or are they going to finance a coal-fired power plant? So community development banks and credit unions are a great way to start. And they, just by simply opening a checking and savings account in a community development bank and credit union. And you can come to our website, greenamerica.org, and click on social investing and community investing, and we can help you find those community development banks and credit unions around the country. So that's a great place to start. And
do they have a lot of convenient access points? I mean, ATMs and online banking as well. Are they developed in that way, or is it going to be more of a local type of service?
Many of them do have online banking and ATM access. If the one you're interested in does not, you could maybe do something that I've done over the years. I have a savings account with a bank that has ATM machines every other third corner. And the savings account is a very small amount of money, but it gives me free access to the ATM machines. So I keep a small amount of money and can get free access to the ATM machines. And then all of the rest of my banking relationship is with a community development bank, which is about 1,000 miles from my home, by the way. So my paycheck gets deposited into the community development bank. I have CDs at the community development bank. They're all federally insured. They offer the same rates as any other bank in the country. And yet that bank is turning around and helping create local small businesses. They have a specialty in serving underserved communities. They've done things like create daycare centers and healthcare clinics and affordable housing. I mean, it's just, these community development banks are amazing. And that's when I'm sitting here talking to you, my money is helping create sustainable businesses and affordable housing, and that's really cool.
So the interest rates are on par with a lot of the big banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank.
They are exactly the same.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, great. All right. So that makes an easier choice, right?
Right, exactly the same. And guess what? It's the exact same insurance. And guess what else? Green America, we run a big breakup with your bank campaign, because those mega banks, not only do they invest in pollution, not only do they invest in sweatshops, but they were also central to the recent economic meltdown that just occurred and has hurt so many families and so many small businesses. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't get my money. And I broke up with my big bank and I'm with a community development bank. So it's, again, you get to do two things. At Green America, we always say there's two parts of social change: stopping the damage, moving your money away from the destructive stuff, and moving your money into good stuff. So you can do that with your checking and savings accounts.
Wow, that's so awesome. I'm actually just in the process of doing a whole finance remix and switching. I'm going to be switching up all my banks, and that was already on my list of things to do. So I'm really glad to be hearing about these other alternatives, because I've been trying to figure out, like, where do I move my money to next,
I'm so glad. Yay. Let's celebrate what you're doing.
The big banking breakup. Awesome.
Send them one of those breakup letters. And, oh, by the way, that's important. When you do break up with them, actually, I was jesting, but it's really important for them to hear, I am leaving you because of your practices and policies. It's very important for them to hear. We call it using your economic choices and your voice. So that if there's ever a chance that they're going to reform, when they hear from more and more people that that's why you're leaving, that's really great.
Okay,
so,
I'll remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I was going to jump into, what basic steps do you recommend that a socially responsible investor take to get to $1 million by retirement?
Well, let me back up just one second. For those who want to find out, do come to our website, greenamerica.org, and search for our community investing guide, and you can download it and find all the different ways to do community investing. There's some amazing stuff you can do. So when you want to take your next step into social investing, and again, one of the things when you want to come to our website, you'll want to download our guide to socially responsible investing, and it will help you walk through the worksheet of, now that you've reduced your consumption and you know how much you're living on each month, it helps you calculate how much money you would need to retire well. So whether that's $1 million or whatever it is for you, how to retire comfortably in a better world. And it'll walk you through how much money you need to save and invest. So you'll want to do some investing. And that means, for some people, that means investing in the stock market, in stocks and bonds. And we encourage the same thing with socially responsible investing. You can make conventional investments, but if you are investing in coal-fired power plants, to use that example again, you're undoing all of the great work you just did in your personal life. You just made your home energy efficient and you're saving a ton of money, and maybe you got a zero-down solar lease on your roof, which we can help you do, so you can get solar for free on your roof. And you've done all these great things, plus you give money to environmental organizations and you purchase from green companies, you're doing all this great stuff, and now you turn around and you invest in a utility company that has coal-fired power plants, you're undoing all the good work, so you don't want to do that. You want to invest in the same things that you're putting your time, your purchasing power, and your philanthropy into when you give money. And so that's the idea of social investing. One way to start is there are a whole series of socially responsible mutual funds, which you can link to on our website and find out about them. And they have already done a lot of work for you. They've put together their criteria. They say, this is the goal of our mutual fund. We're going to seek out renewable energy, or we're going to invest in companies that have really great policies for promoting women and people of color, and they have great diversity in their senior management and their boards. We're investing in companies that don't privatize water and make sure that there's clean, healthy water. Whatever it is, you look for the things that are really important to you, and you invest in that mutual fund. And it's a mutual fund like any other mutual fund out there, only in addition to managing your money in a financially prudent manner, they're also making sure that these socially and environmentally responsible outcomes also happen.
So how well do some of these SRI funds perform? I hear some of them don't really perform all that well. Is that true, or are there some that are really gangbusters?
It's absolutely true that there are some that are gangbusters, and it's absolutely true that you can do as well with socially responsible investing than conventional investing. We've kept track of the performance for years, and every single person who wants to be a social investor can do as well with social investing as they could if they were a conventional investing. Now, some people say, oh, that's great, then I'm going to be a social investor and I'm going to outperform the market. No. You still have to do your homework. You still have to know how much money what your growth objectives are. You have to learn some of the basics of investing about how to have a diversified portfolio. And you need to know how much risk you want to take, because those companies, whether it's a socially responsible mutual fund or a conventional mutual fund, those that are called growth funds are going to take more risk. They're going to invest in smaller, faster growing companies, and that takes on more risk. So you have to know how much risk you can tolerate. So the good news is that with socially responsible investing, you can do as well as any other kind of investing. The bad news is it's not a magic passport to great performance in investment. You have to do your homework as you do with any investing. So it's not magic, but you can do as well with social investing as regular investing. Now, if you say, boy, I don't know a lot about investing, how am I going to know all of that? That's the next step that you can take if you want to be a social investor, which is there is a whole group of socially responsible financial advisors and consultants that can help you tailor your socially responsible investing plan to meet your financial needs, your financial goals and objectives, along with your social and environmental goals and objectives. And again, if you come to our website, we'll link you to those financial planners and consultants that have made a commitment in helping their clients learn not only good financial planning, but also how to do socially responsible investing. And they can help you learn how to diversify your portfolio. And they can help you assess how much risk you're willing to take. And they can help you think about what's appropriate for how much risk you want to take. Younger people can take more risk because they have many, many years to be investing. Older people would probably want to take less risk, because if you have something like the stock market meltdown we saw a couple of years ago, you want to be able to have a lot of investments in securities and assets that won't take the big stock market hit. A socially responsible advisor can help you with that. You can find them either in one of two ways. You can come to our website, greenamerica.org, and click on Green Pages and search for financial planners. And you can also go to our sister organization, the U.S. Social Investment Forum. That's socialinvest.org, and you can click on their directory and find socially responsible investors, investment advisors all over the country.
That's very cool. I didn't know that. So that is awesome. Thank you for sharing with us that resource.
Every investor can find the right investments for both their social and environmental goals, their financial goals, and the amount of risk that they're willing to take.
Terrific. So we're coming to the end of our segment. Do you have any other parting words of advice on socially responsible investing, getting your financial house in order so that by the time you retire, you will be retiring in abundance with $1 million and in a better world?
Well, we would love to invite everyone to consider becoming a member of greenamerica.org. We provide regular resources on all of this information. We have a very popular magazine called The Green American that looks at all the social and environmental issues of our times and gives you practical solutions. In every issue of Green American, we have a social investing column. The one that's just going to press now is about investing to empower women. So the one prior to that was how to do community investing. So every issue has a special article that goes into depth on how to do some version of socially responsible investing. And you can become a Green American. Come to our website, greenamerica.org, sign up to become a member, and you'll automatically get all of our popular resources. And we've just launched, for those of you who are completely in the digital world, we've just launched our digital membership where you can get all of our publications in digital format that's really cool, that have videos embedded and hot links to all of the resources that we provide. So if you want a paper copy to read on the bus or in the middle of the meadow and you can't your electronic reader to work, great. Otherwise, you can get our digital membership and you can download that to any of your e-devices and be completely paperless.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Great pleasure. Thanks for all your great questions and deep passion about this.
Awesome. So this is Lorna Lee, the Editor-in-Chief of Entrepreneurs for Change, and we were just speaking with Alisa Gravitz, the Executive Director of Green America and co-founder of the Green Festivals. Her lifelong passion is to grow the green economy to create a more just and sustainable world for all. To find out more about Alisa and her work, go to www.greenamerica.org and www.greenfestivals.org. If you are a green business or want to be a green business, check out www.greenbusinessnetwork.org.